on. And a very good evening. Welcome to the Duaneo podcast number 18, the 11th episode of NRRRL discussion. And I'm, for the first time in podcast history, I'm out of my Byron Bay bunker. I thought, well, now the grand opening of Byron Bay and Ballina and Lismore becoming part of the Gold Coast, I'm here on the sunny Gold Coast. So I'm not in a bunker. I'm up in the second tier of my better half's place. So what that's why we had to hold the podcast. The real reason we had to hold the podcast off the other night, not because you had to work, Crossy, not because you had to go to dinner, Mickey. That's the real reason. So, boys, I thought I'd bring in another special guest. Of course, we're talking to Dan Ross later tonight from Tweed Coast Raiders, who, of course, gone on to who have booked themselves another grand final date in a couple of weeks' time, either against the winner of this weekend's game between the Mooloolaba Mustangs and the Bilambil Jets. But I also brought in another guest. I brought in Woody.
Woody, how's Woody going?
Well, Woody didn't need to get a border pass today, so I smuggled him in the back of the car, but because, Broncos being I don't think he can get the Rona, so
is that a Broncos hat you've got on?
Yeah, mate. Well, it's black, so it probably spells that how their season's gone, so it's quite fitting. But I actually got this from a Dragon supporter, and no, it wasn't Goffy. And Goffy's actually quite annoyed that he wasn't the one to receive this from me. But can I just say, we got to admire there, Crossy.
This is I got a special guest too. This is Emmy. Say hello.
Hi, Emmy.
All right,
Hey.
Yeah. Crouch down. Say hello.
Hi.
All right, bedtime. See you later.
Okay. All right. So parental. We could have you on a parental show there, Crossy. Parental.
Yes.
Parentals with Crossy, but no. So he didn't need a border pass today, Woody. But and Goffy was going to get me one of these. But can I just say, and I'll just get your answer on this: how sour and twisted and bitter are Dragon supporters? They're just so.
We're not going to go down this track, are we?
Oh, mate, they're so silver tongued. It was a Dragon supporter who gave this to me, and he was just dishing it out. But for the amount of stuff that Dragon supporters dish out, it's like,
they've hardly had a great year. The Dragons.
2010, it was still clutching on to 2010.
10 years.
Yeah. So, Mickey, anything you want to add before we get into serious business?
Oh, nah. I'm more excited about who wins and not who comes last. So
that's right. Also,
mate, the finals.
And mate, you've had your ears lowered, I see too, which is good. So for finals time, you're all looking slicked up.
Yeah, people were making fun of me saying, they can't see you when you commentate, and I was like, yeah, but oh well.
I'll tell you what, Nev. If Mickey's haircut's anything to go by, the Jets mean business this week. Look out the Mustangs. Right. The Jets are on.
Well, look, as you were saying, Mickey, you can't see it. Look at me, mate. I'm ready to go into another mosh pit, So I don't dress like this, obviously, on game day, but, man, you look at me walking down the street with my black cut-off jeans and, Metallica shirts and Parkway Drive, whatever. I'd be the last person you pick for a bloody commentator these days. But let's get into the serious business. As Crossy said, Bilambil mean business, and they certainly did with some justification on Saturday week, a week ago against Coogin, we were talking about how close these derbies have been in the regular season, and these last two games in this past gone have been anything but. Bilambil winning 40 points to 10 against Coogin. So Oliver Regan scoring, Alex Fitzu, Luke Jagger, Mitch Spackman, and of course, Mickey, you wrote to me, we had to make sure that was his last game out at the Valley. Thomas Rafferty scoring a double, and for Coogin, Jalen DeGroot got over, and I can't quite make out who the other try scorer was.
I think it was Cam Roberts.
So he was playing
on the wing there.
On the wing.
That's true.
Yep.
So I watched a bit of this game. It was on a Monday, and it really, for that first quarter, you wouldn't pick it. That was going to be 40 points to 10. It was a close 5 of the game, but then Bilambil went on with business in that second quarter, towards the end of the first quarter, going into the second quarter. And I actually said this about a week ago on the podcast. I was using Casino Northern United as an example where when a team gets on a roll and scores about 3 or 4 tries, they just put the bookend away. But and I said Coogin, I did say I think you could possibly add Coogin to this, and unfortunately that was the case. When you look at their lineup, and it was like a vastly. I'm going to go in one, the complacency side of things, but I just think Coogin, these younger boys, they've only had about 3 months off in the best part of 2 years, like with rep footy and like with a COVID break. So 3 months with rep footy, playing under 18s, and some of those boys playing PVC in the school comps. I think they would just looked a little bit burnt out for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'll jump in there. I think there's been a lot of footy across the board, and I think Big Caleb Zeeble has been carrying a weight of expectation and sort of carrying that forward pack through. Of course, he was injured, but I think it all become all too much for them in the end. You need things to go for you, as Mickey will tell you, down with the Jets. They're starting to really come good at the right end, and I just felt Coogin were going the other way. But yeah, it's been one of them years, boys, though, hasn't it? So.
Yeah, it's just like when was it? So you look at the start of the first quarter. There was one try to Blamble, and then Blamble by the time it was half time, it went from 6-0 to 34 something nil was about that right there, Mickey. Yeah. So 34-0, and then by that time 3 tries in the space of like as many minutes. One when Oliver Regan marched down and like there was a kick away and there was chases for it, and then he. 9.5 times out of 10, you think Jalen de Groot and the Coogin players batted away and forced a line drop out, but unfortunately they had Oliver Regan was one of the chasers, and he gets it 9.5 times out of 10, and I just look, and it just broke their hearts and their spirits, the Hornets, and there was a lot of uncharacteristic football, including Jalen de Groot got sent off for dissent. So just little things like that, which you would never assume in a million years for some of these players. And I just think frustration's got the better of them, and Blamble just turned up on the day. But Mickey, you were there.
Yeah, well, one of the talks at Blamble for the last couple of weeks is what we're doing at training is finally, heading on to the paddock when we play as well. So we've been training well, we've been playing well, and what we're trying to do at training is what's happening out there on the field. So that's one of the positives to take away. And like Crossy touched on it, it is a good feeling down there at the moment. We've had to do it the hard way. Started slow. We have to beat every other team in the Northern comp now to essentially win a grand final. But yeah, the feeling's good and the vibe's good, and the players are just I guess they're having fun as well. They weren't having a lot of fun at the start. It was stopping, it was starting. Are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Yeah. People weren't committed, and now it's kind of it's a good feeling down there. So,
and I'll tell you what, Mickey, like it's a great point because you're heavily entrenched in there, so you know that. But from someone like myself who I only know a couple of the guys down there, from the outside looking in, you can actually see that it looks like they're having fun. It looks like they're buying in, and it actually looks like they're working hard for fellas like Mitch Spackman, who's going to hang the boots up. Like they got one crack at this, and I just feel, at times when you need to find an effort, sometimes you need a reason to find an effort. And for me, the Jets seem like there's a few reasons, and blokes are willing to turn up for each other, and that's hard to coach, and it's also hard to coach and play against. So that's something pretty special if I can get going this week.
Yeah, well, you were talking about the Coogin team before. Like at the end of the season, looking back now, I feel sorry for the team. I mean, sorry is not the word, but they had the toughest season out of all of us. Right. They weren't sure if they were going to play. Buddha had to have season-ending injury. I know Jakey Sands was out most of the year. I think those younger boys weren't their A-grade team, but they were trying to give them experience and put some confidence in them, and full credit to Coogin for doing stuff like that. But it was almost like they were had the expectations put on them, where like Crossy is saying, we've got the expectations put on ourselves, and we want to do these things for Spacco, and Tommy Plater's not there at the end of the year now when the boys are having fun. So
and I mean, as you said, Mickey, like I've said this over the past few weeks, and podcast mentioning Coogin, they have not had a solid lineup for more than 2 weeks, if at all. And like if it's not injuries, it's like it. And I was having a quick gander just at their lineup, just I'll get it back up here in a second. Just to give you an example. So like they missed a lot of those boys from the PBC duties, but then you saw like Tom Weaver, like he put his heart out on Saturday. These boys have just tried, but the thing is that they were like these boys that they were up against were against some seasoned campaigners. This wasn't their first rodeo. These boys were only strapping on the boots for 18s this year, like their first game, let alone a first final series. As I said, I know it's only a 14 competition final series, but it's still a final series nevertheless. But
yeah, and Coogin actually they won the second half of that game. I think it was 10-6 in the second half.
Yeah.
So they fought to the end, and it was just too strong of a start for Bilambo. But that game. We'd be lying if we say we weren't nervous heading into that game against Coogin. So
no, so because I mean, you look at on paper, it said it was a dead heat, literally a dead heat going into.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like it was literally one apiece and plus a draw. So, but it's but I'm liking the looks of Bilambo heading into this these next couple of games though, Mickey. Like and we'll touch into the next game when Wollongbar played Tweed, but obviously, Bilambo getting the job against Wollongbar a fortnight ago, but the Jets were only a couple of points off the Raiders, like on 2 occasions. So they just have to have that extra spark in their step, but they're going to have to do it at a hostile Lesberger field to do it. But I wouldn't bat it past them. Like I really wouldn't. But it just goes to show how close this competition really has been in this Tweed Shire. Yeah,
definitely. It's such a, it's a local derby every week. And so you can't underestimate anyone. You can't overestimate yourself as well, I think. And I think the boys, well, for me personally, to get this far is a good achievement in itself.
Yep.
We didn't know Spacco was announcing his retirement and stuff like that. So I think that will be our little kind of personal edge. But in saying that, Mustangs put 30 points on us at Bilambo a month ago. So it's really good to see what happens. Yeah.
So it was a tale of two teams, and as we move on to the Raiders versus Mustangs game, so Coogin, so when they had a couple of unanswered tries put on them, they, as I said, it was just it goes to show where it comes down to mentality in a final series, because Coogin, those boys through no fault of their own, just didn't have an answer when a couple of quick tries come against them. It actually went the other way with the Raiders when Mustangs, and we'll no doubt talk about this with Dan. So it was 10 points in the space of the first 10 minutes. The Mustangs scoring over. So Liam Cusack scoring. I'm just having a look here, just on the try score. So Liam Cusack going over to score from 70, 80 metres out. And, of course, Caleb Nichols was the first try scorer in the first couple of minutes. So at 10-0, Crossy said in the call there was only one. He actually quoted saying there was only one team that turned up during the first quarter. But then, they showed up for the first quarter, and since then they hadn't. So Raiders then just put on a clinic. So it just goes to show that just because you have the momentum 1 minute, depending on who your opposition is, it could change in a heartbeat. So Crossy, what was your take on that after all that?
Yeah, well, mate, you're right. I did say that in the call, and it was sort of concerning. I guess notoriously they are slow starters, aren't they, the Raiders? But that's something that they will need to address. The Mustangs, they've had an up and down year as well. At the start of the year, in the fully fledged comp, they were losing some close games, uncharacteristically, had some injuries. They've finally started to get going now, but then they've lost Besgrove and Big Jonty Vandersher didn't play last week. So hopefully those guys come back next week. But, the Mustangs, depending on how they turn up on the day, they could turn up on Saturday and beat Bilambo by 30, or the Jets could get them in a close one. It depends sort of what sort of mood they're in and how well Bilambo can defend their line, because I think Bilambo will find that effort, as I've just mentioned before. But Wollongbar, out of all the teams, they have the most trick shots. They have the most little plays that they can come up with when they need, whether it's a kick, whether it's a little runaround play, whatever it is. So I give the Jets a big chance this week. It's going to be a tight one. I'm looking forward to it.
And I can just read Mickey's mind there. The blueprint is being run inside his head. You can just see it, like he squints, like he's grooming you there, grooming your thoughts there, Crossy, like just getting the good coach's knowledge. So, But with that being said, he'll be sitting up there with me on Saturday, not in the dugout. But Mickey, did you catch any of that game on Sunday at all on the live stream?
Yeah, I did. And I feel like the Mustangs essentially in the end they shot themselves in the foot, and I think Crossy, you were saying it in the call just about these penalties that they were giving away, and it was that I think Tweed Coast's first 2 tries come directly off a penalty set.
That's
and just
right.
like a lazy head high or just holding him down too long. So I think if Wollongbar, I'd be surprised if it wasn't talked about this week at training. Get rid of those, not needed. Make a little bit extra effort to get your tackles down and to get off them and make an effort. And they were dominating until those penalties kind of crept in, and they just kind of let Tweed Coast back in the game there. So we're definitely wary of Wollongbar this week. But it's that comp. Be wary of everyone.
That's right.
If I'm a huge fan of. Is it Joe Besgrove? Is his first name Joe?
Yeah.
He's of the games that I've watched of him. He's one of my new favorite players. But he's been unavailable the last couple of weeks, and it really shows. So even if he plays, his presence on the field that'll be huge from a Wollongbar. I think it was a hamstring that he is dealing with though. So we'll just.
They're tricky. They're tricky to get right. The Hemis. I wonder, boys, if he will play. I did see him from a distance there at the game on the weekend, and normally with hamstrings, when it feels right to go, you give it another week because they're so hard to get right.
Crossy, as I was saying, I just wonder if last year was in the back of his mind, with that shoulder. It's a different injury, but
it's a great point.
Yeah, he had he was Buckley's chance of playing that grand final, but it just shows his heart that he went and played and had the needle. I think Bailey said in the podcast a few weeks ago, but he should never really have played that grand final. But I guess they had that was their only slim chance against Ballina on the day. But with a hammy, well, that's just how much of an influential player he is. I've said that in the past couple of weeks about how he brings a team together, not just because of his playing ability, but because of his captain leadership. Because that's you look at it's no coincidence, lads. You look at who's rising to the top, and on both of these conferences that the Tweed's up there because they've had that core group for the best part of 2-3 years. And I guess Balamba, although they're new to the NRRRL this season, but they've all been playing together in the Gold Coast competition. They still have that similar mold. And you throw Oliver Reed and Hayden Hansen for good measure. But then you look at Wollongbar and Coogin, and now they're the 2 teams there that have, I wouldn't say border problems have been affecting because they're not really part of the whole demographic with, being out of the bubble. But injuries has been they're the 2 teams that have probably had to have blood their under 16s Andrew Johns Cup players from the Titans last year and Laurie Daly Cup this year, I say. But and here the thing is, those boys, and I just said that they were playing football from the beginning of last year. Yeah, they played. So they were playing. So then think about going into the end of the year before that, 2018, where they would have been in training camp. From there, then they would have gone play junior 16s or even 18s. And then a lot of those boys actually then got picked to play for country. So they would have had the couple of games for country. And then I think Tommy Weaver even got picked for New South Wales on the 16s.
Yes.
And then they have their season. Then they go into training camp again. Then they went to the UK just before Christmas. Then they go into training camp again for the Titans. And that was when COVID hit. So they've had that 3 months off. And it's only because it was COVID in force. So no wonder that some of these boys, so they've been then asked to make A-grade debuts and stuff. So I just think it's just a bit of wear and tear. And but I'll tell you what, though, you can't say they haven't got the experience.
No, well, they've got it now. But the hard thing is they're coming into first grade with a few of their mates, which is fantastic on one hand, but it means the more guys you're coming into first grade with those 16, 17-year-olds, the less 28, 29, 30-year-olds there are in your team, which is a big thing. I remember I come into first grade for Byron Bay as a 16-year-old. I come in on the wing, and I come into a team that had won the comp the year before, and I just had to come in, and my game at that stage was built around my speed. I used to come in and be on the end of a great backline and score tries, and anything I did was a bonus because I was a 16-year-old kid.
Yep.
The problem now is with kids like Tommy Weaver and that come in, Jalen de Groots, the Bryant boys, they're coming in and almost being relied upon, and that's a big difference in an A-grade environment. Yeah, so and that mentally that does wear you down as a young kid. So done a great job to do what they've done, but time to have a rest, boys, and freshen up.
That's it. So, but speaking more about the game the other day, it's just I think the Raiders knew that too. Like they sent all their big boppers up the middle and just and Moolumbar just like being pegged back into their own 20-meter line, and then Lynn McGrady starts sending kicks up high and just testing Toby McIntosh for bombs and stuff, and then the rest is history. But Mickey, what were your thoughts based on knowing all that?
Yeah, it was at the end of the day, typical Tweed Coast Raiders game. They didn't panic. They ground their way back into it. I love seeing big Cal Rouston running around again.
He's got a good try too. Crash one under the sticks.
Right. Just how are you supposed to stop that? So
he was outstanding, wasn't he?
Yeah, really good. And you know, if it's a big boost for the team as well. So I think they've been the best team in the Northern Comp. And they deserve the week off, and they deserve the final at Tweed Coast. And, I don't want to be the one to say it because, you don't want to say it about anything, but their only fault now is one slip up. If they lose one game, unfortunately, all their hard work's done because they've been winning these tight, close games. But, they got Clyde there. Yep. They know how to win the close games, and I think they thrive in this situation. So, they won't. I don't think they'll be too fussed whoever wins out of.
And that's right.
Wollumbar and Bilambil this weekend. They'll just do their own thing, and they might fairy tale win at Tweed Coast Grand Final.
And it just takes one game. It just does. It's like, there's similar stories like it, but I'll just give you a bit of a history. You probably remember this, Crossy, because it was on Grand Final day. I think it was 2014. It was in reserve grade. It was Moolumbar Mustangs reserve grade team. I think they won every game, like 20 games or something. I think they had a similar record last year. And they played Casino in I think it was a semi-final at Ballina, and they flogged Casino.
Flogged them.
And then they played in the grand final. They were winning that game, and then Casino had one good half, pegged it back to extra time, and then Casino took it away in a field goal. So they're winning literally up until the last half of football. Went to extra time, Casino broke the house. But I think Moolumbar got revenge back the next year. I think it sort of went like that. But so you're pretty spot on there, Mickey, when you can't be complacent, even though, and especially in this one where it's just any games, as I said, 2 points have only separated on 2 occasions between the two teams. So
just on the Raiders, Nev, just quickly, just want to give a rap to Jack O'Brien and Don Murray. I think I mentioned in the call, those two guys, the way they get their sets started coming out of yardage, coming out of trouble is phenomenal, isn't it? They carry 10 to 15 metres every time. And then, as Mickey said, once you've got Kale coming off the back fence, he just changes that energy and the dynamic through that middle there. So I thought they were outstanding, those boys on the weekend. Yeah,
Job just reminds me of another Blake Ferguson out there. He's as big as the forwards. He has the hit-ups. He loves the tough stuff. And, luxury to have.
They missed him last year, didn't they? Like, he didn't play last year or was injured or – I just remember calling games and he wasn't there and it was noticeable. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. I'm not sure, actually.
Okay. So there was one other game in the Southern Conference, Morris and Casino out at Crozer Oval. Morris getting up 34 points to 20. King Krause scoring a couple of tries. Josh Patson scoring a double. They were the two best players of the day. I think Josh Patson was man of the match. Isaac Lee and Celia Stavnaus were the try scorers. It's 6 tries to 4. Casino with Noah King, Rodney Collins, Jared Roda, and Tom Shaw. And amongst the goal kickers, Jacob Fawn kicking 5, Gary Rocks kicking a deuce. Casino were doing better, guys. They were winning that game.
Great.
They were. I don't know if any of you boys catch a glimpse of it or not, but Morris scored the first try, and we thought, okay, well, Morris by how much by that point? But Casino got up to as high as 14-6, and then but I think for me, and I said this at the start of the year, they still have a problem with they were playing in spurts basically. I think they were running a sprint when it was a semi-marathon. So they were running a 200-meter race when it was a 2K race, so to speak. So although they got 14-6 tries, I just think part of them though looked a bit gassed. Though I think they were a bit. They played good, and like they didn't completely put the Q on the rack because although Maris Brothers came back and brought their own points in, Casino are actually leading by 2 points at halftime. They scored one to get it at 20. I think it was 20 points to 18 at halftime. But then again, they didn't score another point since into the second half. But Casino, they show good in spurts. But I think you can almost put that, and I think it's just the little niggles at this point of year, whereas when they push into the end of September, early October. I just think some of these boys, I can't really say who, but I just got the feeling that some of these boys are carrying, be it just a minor niggle or something. And I just think those younger boys are just having a hard time just getting their bodies right because at 14-6, despite the fact Maris brother came and brought it back, because Krause, by the time that second half, Krause was running rings around him, and if he wasn't scoring tries, he was setting him up. And
was he doing these runs?
Yeah. So basically, he went from his 10 meters to his 25, ran circles, and then ran around.
Yeah.
And then if he didn't score, he came close. But the problem is that they Casino just lacked that bit of oomph in the second half when it went like that. And then for Maris Brothers, it went the other way because Josh Patson just went, got the poker machine's eyes, as you said it once, Crossy, and he just he just was like, get out of my way. And then you roll the red carpet and scores because it just had that vibe. So it was a tale of two halves. Casino.
Yeah, and as Mickey said, Nev, I was going to say about what Mickey said a few weeks back about, I think, Mickey, every week you've been saying this guy's made his debut, this guy's made it for Casino. So, like we touched on with the young guys with Kudjan, it gets hard, doesn't it, as the weeks roll on, if you're becoming more and more relied upon. Sorry.
But I was going to say the other thing is, to Casino's credit, they won their 18s game and they won their reserve grade game against Lismore as well. So, it's not it's not a bad season, even if they'll make the finals as well, and anything can happen in then. And their first three tries, it was perfect rugby league. It was heads up play. The forwards are bashing up the middle for them to quickly score on the left. The run and play, I think the hooker, you'll have to forgive me, Cougars, I'm not 100% sure of the names, but the hooker filled in at halfback.
Dane Petty.
Yeah, he filled in at half on the run.
He's a great young player.
Yeah, and they went and their centre scored straight away, and then the next two tries come on the very right side of the field. But yeah, is it Josh Patson?
Yeah.
He's the one that you said put a hit on Pangai Jr. back in the day?
No. That was Maxie Elliott. Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, Josh Patson, mate, he played really, really well. Huge. Just, I don't know how old he is or where he's from, but he was outstanding.
Well, he was playing 23s. I think he was still playing under 23s this year because I was calling him. I think more against I think Great Northern Tigers at the start of the year. So he was still playing 23s this year. So he's earmarked for Intrust Super Cup. You can basically write it down in just a matter of where.
He looks like a rugby league player, and he played like one. And I think that's all it was at the end of the day. It was just Casino run out of puff, but they were dominating really the first half.
Now the thing for Casino, and I said this before in a couple of podcasts, is of course they had a whole bunch of players come there. Like Tom McGrady was probably, as well as Noah King, were probably the better two players with Dane Petty, and like McGrady had he got because he was responsible for Casino's attack in that first half in the first place, just marching up from fullback, and he copped a bit of a knock as well, and he almost went off for a HIA. But it's the question is now for Casino is two things. One is their leadership, if they can get some from somewhere, but the second thing is they also got to remember a lot of these players are from loan from Kyogle. So how many of these boys are gonna, whether it's Casino under the Casino banner or Kyogle, these boys need to stay together. But I know it's going to be easier said than done because, they're not exactly sending Christmas cards. Well, it's the clubs are not exactly sending Christmas cards themselves, but those boys are probably all mates and stuff. So what happens, it's going to be an awkward summer. Like if whether they're going to stay and going to go, because Kyogle will be back next year, no doubt.
Well, it's going to be interesting, I think, and it's probably a chat for another podcast, but the player movement post this 2020 COVID season into next year, because as we know, boys, there's a lot of players that are coming down from Queensland Cup that won't be there next year. They'll be moving back up to Cup, you would imagine. And then there's, as you said, Nev, players on loan from different areas. It's going it's going to be really interesting. And even the viability of some clubs moving forward, given what we're seeing this year. So, but anyway, we won't get started on that tonight.
Yeah, no, it's like, and then you think about a lot of the players up this way, up at the Gold Coast League, like Nick Ritter's playing for Runaway Bay Seagulls. He'll probably end up coming back to Duaneo. And I know. I'll try not to mention Oliver. There, Mickey. I know you're trying to get a little bit. You don't want him to go.
Nah, no way. Or Hayden.
Or Hayden.
Or Hayden.
Just, yeah, we'll just take it for this year.
Yeah,
Worry
mate.
about this year. And
Mate. Just
said, we'll talk about that another time when we cross that bridge.
Yeah, so. Well, we'll talk about one of the off-season podcasts. But just got to get some good paying work during the week, and they'll stay, Mickey. So that's what just as much as I said that, like we put their idea to the boys, and then they went. So that's what you got to do. So, all right. So that was we might hammer this out quickly, lads. So the 3 games. We've got about 7 minutes of Zoom time, and then we'll put this one to bed for the. Oh well, sorry, we've got to talk to Dan Ross as well. So, and then we'll chime him in. So, okay, so we'll just make it quick, lads. I know you're going to say Blamble there, Mickey, but Crossy, let's tell us why.
We're just on a roll. We're peaking at the right time. Murbar coming off 2 losses. It's going to be a very difficult task for Murbar to turn it around after 2 losses in a major final, coming up against a Blamble side who's won 2 in a row, essentially a draw, win-win. It's a big ask for them. Not saying that they're not capable of doing it, but I just think momentum's with Blamble. So,
okay, Crossy, who wins? Moolumbar and Blamble?
I actually agree with everything Mickey just said. I think hard to tip against the Mustangs at home, but from what I've seen of the Jets and just knowing what's going on there, they're heading to something pretty special. I feel that remains to be seen, of course. But yeah, the Mustangs for me just seem a little bit busted. As we've said, a couple of tries off kicks, tries off an intercept on the weekend. I'm thinking the Jets might score an upset here, boys, and I'm going to follow Mickey and back the Jets.
Well, for me, if this had been played at the Leagues Club, I'd say Moolumbar would probably take a close one because their 2 wins for the year have come from that Leagues Club. They haven't won yet at Stan Second Oval, even if you include the null and void rounds. So
really,
so they haven't played many there, but I think they've played
but still
both games against Blamble to memory. But yeah, they haven't. Both of them were won by Blamble, and that's probably just a reason alone. But with that being said, for the same reason I was saying about Blamble before, I think they're more. I won't say a better team. I say probably the more established team at the moment. They've got the same players out there week in, week out, whilst Moolumbar is more just, they're sort of like what you saw happen with Coogin. That's just, they're crying for some leadership, and they're trying to, whilst they've got some great players on the field, it's, I just think it's Blamble going to be hungry. They've got Mitch Spackman's, it could be his last game this weekend. How long's he been playing for your boys, Iggy?
About 12 years.
There you go. If that's not a reason enough to send him on a high, then you look at Shane Webke in the Broncos when Woody wasn't even when Woody was still on a bark of tree, So like when I just knew that back in that 2006 grand final the Broncos would win, they win it for Webke. So and then similar position, like is Blamble's Webke. So you can use that too. So Nicky, but I just think they've got more to play for. And I think Moolumbar, it's I just think as I said, if they had Joe Basgrove out there, Leagues Club, probably closer game, could go either way. But I reckon Blamble probably, well, they won by 8 last time. I'm thinking maybe a similar result this time. So but it's going to be a twilight game on Saturday night, kickoff at 4:30 at Stan Second Oval. 2 other games in the Southern Comp, Ballina versus Morris Brothers. I think that's at Crozier Oval. Could be wrong. I'll just double check, boys. But Crossy, who wins and why?
I think the Seagulls will win there. I didn't watch that game on the weekend, the Cougars v Brothers, but I think if Brothers have fair income, I would have thought they might have won by more there. No disrespect to the Cougars, of course, because they try hard every week. But I think Ballina are just proven too strong at the moment in that comp. But if the King and Patson can produce the goods on the weekend, anything's possible. But I'll go the Seagulls, Nev.
Yeah, and it's actually at Kingsford Smith Park.
Oh,
dare say,
apologies.
yeah. I
Definitely.
just had a look at that. So,
Yeah.
I reckon if Morris are going to be any chance against Ballina, they need to start fast and play a good first half. I won't go into why Ballina's great and all that. We've covered that on numerous podcasts, but I think Ballina by about maybe Morris can get within 2 tries, best case scenario, I think, but it could be about anywhere about 20 points, I think. I just think Ballina's got the week off as well with Mullins forfeit, so and they'll be home and hosed, but finals will be a different story. I think Ballina are in for a closer contest than what most punters will think, because you're going to have 3 hungry other teams there for it. But I just think Ballina, like with the minor premiership, they should coast it through. But Mickey, who you like?
Yeah, Ballina, and I agree with what you say about the final series. I'm really looking forward to that final series, because it's going to be a tough one, I think, as well. So, but Ballina this week.
Okay, got 3 minutes of Zoom time left, so let's last game, Casino versus Northern United at QE2 Park and Casino. I'm going to say Casino is going to beat Northern United, guys, and I think because they're just gelling at the right time, and I think Northern have both teams have been playing in patches, but for me, it's Casinos because they're just getting their right team together. Northern United, they've had the same players out here and there, and I just think Casino are going to be more hungry. I reckon they could have won that game against Morris the other day, but I think Casino are on a it's a slow rise, but it's a rise nevertheless. But that's it, Casino. Crossy.
Yep, Cougars for me too, mate.
Okay, Mickey.
Yeah, I really liked how the Cougars played on the weekend, and they're improving. But I said I was going to tip Northern United for the rest of the year.
You did.
I'll tip Northern United.
You forgot about that. Crossy,
Yep.
Crossy, we've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything you want to add, though, Casino, why they will win?
With the Cougars? Yeah, look, I think, mate, over there, their forwards through that middle, which, again, I've been that's my concern with Northern through the year, is their forward and being able to defend constant sets of 6 through that middle third. And Casino's middle third's pretty good. So that's why I think they'll win the game there this week.
Okay, on point. So I'll go and reset the Zoom Club. Coming up next is none other than Premiership winning forward for the Tweed Coast Raiders, Dan Ross. He's just come off the training paddock out at Lesburger Field. So we'll hear what he's got to say about the Raiders. So don't go anywhere. All right, lads. And joining us on episode 18 of the Duaneo podcast is none other than, is it the second or third time that you boys are in a grand final there, Dan? Is it, it'll be the second time in 3 years at least?
Yeah, second time. We made it and won it in 2018 against Ballina down there. And then
absolutely. Me and Cross remember that quite finely. So, of course, none other than Dan Ross, who had a big game against the Mooloolah Mustangs the other day, winning 26 points to 10, as I made mention earlier in the show. But Dan, they haven't had the night off of training. So what's the mentality with all the lads at the moment that you're into that second grand final?
Well, Cody's actually going away for the week due to family reasons. So us sort of lads Tuesday, Thursday, just sort of been getting down there and just working on a few things that we think we can work on as a team. And then we just gave our reserve grade a bit of a post session as they got a game this weekend. So just touched on a few things where we thought we went a little bit wrong on the weekend, where like just starting slow, letting Murbar roll us a little bit in defence, and then just got to start better and get threes in tackles a bit better and slow them down a bit more, and then
And you were just saying that about the slow start. Of course, it was 10 points to nil in about as many minutes. Liam Cusack scored like an 80-minute intercept. So what was it? But and this is what I've been talking about in a lot of the other games. That when teams go off a fast start, they're normally dumbfounded, and then they put the cue on the rack and call it a day. But you guys didn't. So what's the difference, say, from a Raiders perspective, where you got back on the horse and then got on with the job, and then not only win but win well, compared to say some of the other teams that they just get a bit shell shocked. I'll give say Coogin for example when they were playing Blamble the other day.
Yeah, probably the difference. The biggest thing in that Murbar game as well, they only sort of scored off our mistakes. They weren't actually sort of scoring through us. It was just one of them was a mistake, which led to a kick, which was a good kick, which is a good, all right try. But then the other one, I think Lindo put a grubber through and they scooped up, and I think that was Cusack went the length. And then, so behind the try line, we weren't like massively fussed, but we sort of all believe in each other as well. Like, you know, we tend to always, even Cody says that we always start slow and we try not to do that, but we've done it that many times now. Like, no matter how many points away we give it, so we always still, you know, we never drop our heads and we always stay in the fight, I guess you'd say.
That's right. Crossy, did you want to?
Yeah, Dan, how are you, mate? It's good to have a chat to you. I've never really, I know a few of the boys, but I've never been lucky enough to sort of have a chat with you. How's your how have you enjoyed this season? But you've had a bit of a up and down year, mate. Personally, haven't you? You had a bit of a bad head knock there a few weeks ago. Is that right?
Yeah. So just tried to rush up on Buddha when we were versing Cushing and just got my head in the wrong spot. Yeah, that was he's got big hips, so learnt the hard way.
He does.
Yeah, no. So, and then I had to have the 2 weeks off for the 2-week protocol thing they got now, which is a good thing, especially
of course.
Yeah. What happened with Guy as well. So I just just 2 weeks, no rush, and then back into it now, which is good. Yeah,
mate. I was going to ask you about Guy. Given that you said Cody's away this week, does someone like Guy sort of really step up along with blokes like Fishy and probably Drew and yourself, mate, too, and Dan Willoughby? Are you guys really driving the ship this week?
Yeah, probably more Drew. Drew's doing a lot of it. Guys down there helping out. We got, like you said, we got a lot of helpers at the club, and then like Fish is still training with us. Like we got a lot of leaders in the club, so everyone's sort of throwing in their 2 cents. But we try not to, focus on too many, like overload us. We just focus on points that we know are going to help us this weekend, next weekend especially. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Nev touched on before with the slow start. It was something I was keen to have a chat to you about because, as we both know, in big games, particularly a major semi is one thing, but fast forward, to Saturday or Sunday week. I mean, if you're down sort of 10-0 early, you can start to second guess yourself in your mind, can't you? In the big stage. How do you sort of steady the ship there? And as you said before, you have a chat behind the line and say we'll be right there, but. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to go out and sort of get back on track, isn't it? Like where do you go from there?
Yeah, probably just probably trying to just stay on task. Like don't try and play catch up footy. Just sort of do our normal game plan, and then eventually it normally does turn for us. But yeah, definitely the grand final. Definitely can't afford to start slow because whoever we're versing, either Moreland or Blamble, they're going to be hard, especially on the big day. Everything's going to be a lot more high.
Who would you prefer to play?
I don't know. It all depends on
Hey, Dan.
who Murbar have as well.
Sorry,
Yep.
Dan. I apologise if that was a loaded question from the Jets, mate.
Yeah. I know.
You're worse than that moderator in that frigging debate yesterday, Mickey, than that moderator trying to stitch up Trump. But sorry, Dan. Continue, man.
Yeah, you're right. No, I don't know. I think Blamble would be good just because we're mates with a lot of lads out there as well. And we've got a few former players as well, but also Murray, if they've got a full team with, I know Big Jonty and Besgrove are out, but if they're back, I'm not sure what their situation is. They'll obviously be really hard on their day as well. So either way, we're sort of preparing for both of them. So expecting a hard game either way. Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess, mate, you guys shown, 2 years ago, and both Duaneo and I called that game in 2018. It was such a great day to call, and no doubt probably one of the best days of your life, mate, no doubt. But you guys showed that day with your start. I think Jack O'Brien got that early try off a nice little kick from Tane, and then you blokes were away then, weren't you? Great start, fast start, and then the game was done early in that second half in the fair income stakes. So it goes to show if you can start well in the big games, it is hard to pull back.
That game was probably one of the best games all of us have ever played, definitely as a team. We done everything right that day, and I think a few of the lads even said they've gone back and watched it this week and had another look.
Well,
getting them all good and all pumped up. Yeah.
I tell you what, my ears, Crossy, I don't know about you, but my ears are still ringing from because we've said this in a podcast, we've said this time and time again, we didn't have any of these things because the live stream was still new, and we were shouting over each other just so I could hear Crossy and Crossy could hear me, because your hillbillies there were just created some sort of insane noise, and that was my first dance. Watching grand finals. I've been watching as a fan, and when Byron's 2014 up until 13. I was one of those hillbillies back in 14 when I was just a fan of Byron when when Crossy was on the bench. I couldn't and that was somewhat of a local derby. I could not imagine that was probably not even maybe a distant second compared to say what the hillbillies dished out in 2018. I was just so stoked for you boys for you boys as a fan, but also just because I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys on the hill drinking beers and roughing up a few other lads. Like no punches, but just watching on the sidelines. So, how does that make you feel? Now, that was the other. This leads into another question. I know it's only a trimmed down comp, Tweed shy bubble, so to speak. What's the enthusiasm going to be like next Saturday afternoon out at Les Burger, having a home final beat with COVID rules and everything?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing because I think they're cracking down a bit on the 500 rule.
Yeah.
Well, obviously just under once again on the weekend, but
for sure.
499.
Yeah.
No, but everyone's talking about it around town already. They just can't wait. I think we're getting the grand final shirts made up. So if
the other one,
all pending on the limitations and stuff.
So
it's
sorry, Dan. So those other grand final shirts from 2 years ago, they just you can't get the beer stench out of them, from the beer and blood stains and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I got a new batch coming through now, so
good stuff.
That's good, but fill up the cupboard. Yeah.
And also too because with the whole live stream, is that what's the vibe like with because I know talking from with this whole COVID thing, because I covered the rugby as well, and I did the grand final there, and learning that all the taverns and the pubs putting it on, especially now, as you said, the 500 is going to be policed, and that was no different when the rugby was on. So, have you caught a bit of a vibe how that's all going out from outside of the games?
Yeah, there'll be no doubt there'll be a stream going on down at the Bowls Club there, and probably at the pub as well, and everyone wherever they are, like people that work away and stuff, already been messaging in and stuff saying they can't wait. And yeah, it's just good. It's good to have a bit of local sport as well, just through all this COVID stuff, something to do and something to watch as well. So, and
just on a lighter-hearted note, so Kalani Hensby and Lukey Campbell, right? Who's the biggest pest out of those two? And now I forget which one. Which one is the? I had a few. I had messages from both. One was when I was staying up at Potty because I was asking for the best pizza in town when I was up there with my missus, Miss B. And one of them said didn't want to know about Pottsville. I forget which one. The other one said he's the honorary mayor of Potty and a Potty Mouth Pizza or so, and it was spot on too because I had some on Saturday. It was great. So
definitely the biggest pest, Kalani, for sure.
Also
the hitman.
Yeah, and now was that and that's the other thing. Was that a stitch up? Was that a stitch up from Lukey Campbell, or wrote that on the team sheet? And because
nah, what happened? He did have a bit of a good game in defence. I think it might have been against Lamble when we versed him earlier. He put a couple of good little shots on, and then he rolled into training the next week and goes, "I want you to order to now refer me as the hitman." So we thought, no dramas at all. That can be done, mate. So
yeah.
Because you got a fair running commentary that day. I think it was against Coogin, wasn't it, Crossy?
Yeah, it was that day. It was a classic stitch up, we thought.
Oh, man,
yeah.
that was great.
Nah, he loves it. He loves it. Pump his tyres up. He loves it.
As long as he plays good, mate, we'll keep doing it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So final thoughts to you, Dan. So what's
what about Mickey? What about Mickey?
Now, Mickey. Sorry, well, you had
your
stitch up question, so that counts for about.
Yeah.
All right, Mickey.
Yeah, I was going to let Dan know we did message Guy and Drew, but they were both unavailable to chat tonight. So we got the third string Dan in. So just quickly, we're talking about all those names: Kalani, Lukey Campbell, Guy, Drew. The same names keep getting mentioned over and over at Tweed Coast. But the players, when I watch the games, that I really like and appreciate, I guess those kind of unsung heroes, like when you have. Is it Cole Patience and Ryan O'Connell? Is it Ryan O'Connell? Like those guys coming off the bench and Nugget Matthews on the wing, like they just seem to make no errors and they just come in and they do their job. Is stuff like that spoken about or is everyone just knows their role kind of thing, and they're just happy to fill in where they need to? And
it's probably more comes from Coyote. He just likes to reward players that are doing good. Like if someone's carving up in Reggie's, he'll give them a shot. Like for example, Cameron Pollard, who started in front row on the weekend, he's had a massive couple of weeks, and I think he'll be in the team for the grand final for sure. So it just comes back to Coyote just putting his faith in players, and I guess they try and pay him back, I guess, for giving him a shot. And
they're doing absolutely nothing wrong in first grade either. So you can see it's coached well, and it's a good problem to have. So
yeah, and I think we at training and stuff, we all try to teach like throughout each grade similar shapes and stuff like that. So when they come in, there's no dramas. Everyone knows the same thing and what they've got to do and stuff like that. So it's good.
And what about this week, having the weekend off? You considering going out to Moolumbar, or just forget about it, see what happens, and
we're going to do a training session on Saturday morning and then have a little barbecue after that. And then, if we can get in through the 500 rule, we'll definitely be going out to support the ladies and the reserve grade for sure.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, sweet.
But Dan, just make sure if he gives you any drinks tickets or something on Saturday, sorry, it's away. But if he buys you any drinks, just keep an eye on what he does, because soon he's going to be if Belamble get up, he's soon going to be going right. He's going to be writing notes in the commentary box for Saturday. So, but I'll tell you what though, like when you tell me, Kalani Hensby, so do you reckon he'd be in the running for the Tweed Shy Pest against this bloke here? Like, I think now that you've had no, he lives in the Gold Coast, so that's not Tweed Shire. But no, now that you've had your ears lowered, you might have a contender on your hands there, Mickey. What do you reckon?
Yeah, bring it on.
Well, that other pest has pulled it in tonight, Shory, so he's doesn't want to know about it. So anyways, Dan, enjoy your weekend off, man. And if you do go out to the game on Saturday, it'd be good to catch up and have another chat. And man, best of luck for next Saturday, and hopefully for the Raiders' sake, you can get a grand final win on home turf this time around.
Yeah, bloody off. No, I appreciate it, lads. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So that was Dan Ross.
Hey, mate.
Massive part of the, no pun intended, massive part of the Tweed Co's engine room. And so that's all she wrote for episode 18 of the Duaneo podcast. So be sure to watch the live stream this weekend. And of course, subscribe to this page and subscribe to the Instagram, and follow us on there and catch up what's happening in this final series here in the NRRRL. And enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you on the weekend. Have a good night. All right.